keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage, and I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares, nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario, my stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away, asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show once again with your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.TV. Thank you everyone for tuning in and welcome back. We haven't been with you since Wednesday, but we did have a very heated show on Wednesday with some awesome callers and some very different opinions that were, thrown out there on Wednesday. And that's what I think is really awesome about this show is that it's a lot of different people from different backgrounds, different places around the country, around the world, with varying perspectives, and we talk about all those things here on the Anti-Media. And we had a really awesome roundtable conversation going on last week. I think we had something like 9 callers at one time on the show, and it can be a little hectic. So, now that we're getting a lot of callers here and there on our shows, we do want to kind of put out some ground rules just to make sure that the show stays flowing and, we don't get stuck. But, essentially one of the big things, we're not supposed to be dropping the F-bomb out of respect to our station producers. Jules, we love you. And also we have to let everyone else speak, and we had a guy on Wednesday and he had some really great points and he was, saying some smart, observations. But unfortunately, towards the end of the show, I'd hang up on him because he wouldn't let anyone finish their thoughts. And you know how it is. It's kind of tough. It's kind of tough to continue a conversation when people aren't letting you finish your thoughts. So yeah, if anybody wants to call, I didn't put the number out there tonight on social media just because we do have some special guests tonight that one of them was in Baltimore. We'll get to that once we get to that point. But if anybody does want to join the conversation, you want to find out what's going on in Baltimore once we have our caller on the line, feel free to call us, 718-717-8296. That's the Anti-Media Radio number, and you can call. Once you get on the line, just keep your phone on mute until we announce you by your area code or your Skype name, and then you can join the conversation. But it also, another thing to keep, another important thing is once you're on the line to mute up your other speaker, your computer, whatever it is that you're using, so that we don't get a feedback, and then also to keep it on mute once again. I'm joined on the call now with my co-host, DB Schwartz. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing good. Doing good up here, and the weather's amazing, dude. So I can't complain at all.
Nice. And we're also joined in the studio with one of our journalists, Jake Anderson. How are you doing tonight, man?
Quite well, Nick. DB, good to hear your voice. As always.
You as well.
So we got some interesting things to talk about tonight, and I think we are joined now by our special guest, Rihanna Ruiz. Is that you? How's it going?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. So Rihanna, you were in Baltimore. I think you got there on Friday night, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. I got there Friday night, and I spent the night at my hotel, but early the next morning, got into the city. And Nick, it was sad. It was really sad. Baltimore has many different sides to it. I mean, you have the tourist section, you have downtown, you have, some of the different neighborhoods and stuff. So, it's quite large. And I mean, every corner, every nook and cranny of Baltimore was just covered with law enforcement officials. And it was just sad. It was sad because there was no violent activity even going on, and yet, it was just really excessive. And it was sad to see because I am from the East Coast. I'm from Jersey. And I have gone to Baltimore before in my life, and, they were all great experiences, and this was very different. It was just sad. I'm just going to be honest, it was frustrating to see it in that condition. And in addition to that, there's helicopters just flying everywhere. So it was definitely a sight to see, for sure.
So is this your first taste of what a police state would actually, like a full-on police state would actually look like?
Oh, yes. And it was incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, it makes you feel uneasy. It makes you feel like you're always being watched, and it's a very uneasy feeling. And now when we got there, I was with a couple of friends, but when we had gotten there, we had walked a couple of miles to where City Hall was. And when we got there, it was just incredible. It was to see the crowd. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, the attendance at this gathering was enormous. Tens of thousands of people throughout the day, because we had arrived there in the morning. And there was a rally at the City Hall, and then there was a march afterward. So, of course, throughout the day, the crowd just grew and grew and grew and grew, and the speakers were unbelievable. They were friends and family members of Freddie, but then also, different people from the Black Lives Matter movement were also there speaking. So it was just, it was really great to hear all of them speak and hear some of their stories and their feelings and how they felt about everything. But what I do want to mention, Nick, and it was pretty appalling to me, and definitely to the entire crowd. One of the speakers, he told the crowd, and I mean, again, I have to reiterate, there's tens of thousands of people, and he tells everybody, he said, turn around and look at the building behind you. So everybody turned around, and he told everybody to look up on the rooftop. And that's when we all realized that there were snipers up there. And
wow, that's crazy. I mean, these snipers, were they like, do you think they had their like scopes aimed down at the people that were speaking, or what do you think they were doing?
I have a few photographs. I mean, if I zoomed in on them, I could get a better perspective. But from actually being there, at times, yes, it looked as though, they had something propped up, or certainly they had something to look out into the crowd, maybe binoculars or something like that. At times, there seemed to be about 6 of them, and then other times there were maybe only 2. And after I spent most of my time up by the stage, there were actually 2 towered statues with flags on them that I actually climbed up to take great video and photographs. But I did walk all throughout, just the field, out in front where everybody was standing. I walked out in there and around the block there. And when I got closer to the building that everybody was standing behind, we did notice that there were also snipers atop of a building right next to that one, adjacent to the other building. So, I mean, they were out and ready. And I posted a lot of photographs, and you could see they're all holding guns. It was an uncomfortable feeling, I mean, and I'm not the only one that felt that way. But the good thing about having that many law enforcement officials in abundance at a gathering like that is that they were able to stand there and hear the messages that were being sent out by the speakers and hear what the speakers had to say. And that was very gratifying,
That's true. That's a good point. I never really thought of it that way, but it's almost like these cops are being paid to go out there and hear these messages that are the messages that, they need to actually hear, because these are the guys that are carrying out these orders, carrying out the drug war, carrying out these broken window policing policies and stuff like that. So it's kind of a good thing. I mean, it's horrible that they feel like they have to bring cops out to what are basically almost entirely peaceful protests. And we're going to get into that a little bit too, because I want to talk about the media hypocrisy going on here. But I know here in San Diego, I mean, we've never even had a violent protest in all the time I've been out here involved in activism, which has been like 4 years. We haven't had a single act of violence. Yet at the same time, they feel like they have to send out this massive police apparatus every time we have a regular. I mean, we're out there doing anti-war, peace protests, and they feel like they have to send cops out there to keep us from hurting people. What in the hell are they thinking?
Gentlemen, there's no fighting in the war room.
Oh my goodness! But yeah, it's completely unnecessary, Nick, and I understand what you're saying. But there were so many of them in attendance at Baltimore, and they were just lined all over the city. And at times, people walked right up to them and had things to say to them, and asserted themselves, to these law enforcement officials. And I actually have a great video of a protester who was in support of Marilyn Bosby, who was the Baltimore City prosecutor, who was the one that made the decision to charge all 6 of the officers involved with Freddie Gray's death. So he was a passionate person in the crowd. He had made a poster of her, and he went at it. He went at it and let at least the officers standing with where he was. He let them know his thoughts and how he felt, and that was the thing. It like I said, I mean, it was kind of good in a way for them to be there, because we don't know what's going on in their head, and for some of them, maybe it made them rethink their position and what they do for a living, So
I think for a lot of these cops, like the only thing holding them in line right now, it's not their like moral compass, because I think most of them already understand that a lot of what they do is pretty immoral, and it's not right. The only thing holding them in line is the power structure, like the group mentality, like the fact that everyone else is doing it. Like, oh, all the other cops are still doing this, enforcing the drug war, I got to do it too. And that's one way I think that these guys reinforce these unjust systems. We talk about it all the time, the thin blue line. And it's all part of this. It's all part of this mentality. But I think on the individual level, there are definitely a bunch of cops out there that understand like what they're doing is wrong. They're just yet to break away from that system, because that system is still pretty, powerful and in control of their thought processes and stuff. And it's very much.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Nick. I didn't mean to, but I just wanted to say a lot of them are very young too. They have their whole life ahead of them, and and when I say they're young, I would say about 70% of the officers and law enforcement there were, they looked like they were in their late 20s, early 30s. So I mean, these are young men and women that still have a lot of their life yet to live. And so, I mean, let's hope that they make the right decision and either step away from something like this, because it's just proven to be a corrupt system and something that somebody with any good set of morals would not want to be a part of. I mean, they could do that, but Or if they want to stay involved with it, then what they need to do is call out the crooked officers, the crooked law enforcement that are, getting away with these atrocious acts. And I mean, something's got to give here, So, I mean, those that are involved, those who are involved in law enforcement, I mean, they have some decisions to make, because it really is not a good thing to be in. It's not. And if they are going to be in it, they need to start doing the right thing, and making it a good, safe thing for the community. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody is paying their salary. They're public servants. They're here to protect people. And when you walk around Baltimore and you see all the law enforcement out, they're not protecting anyone. They're
Chris
not.
Kyle doing it at rally,
And it's just ridiculous for anybody to think that. I mean, how is anybody supposed to feel safe? I mean, I'm almost 32 years old, and I can tell you right now, that is the most amount of guns that I have ever been around in my life. I mean, it was everywhere. It was everywhere.
And they want to tell us that we need to be the ones that need the arms control, the gun control and stuff. And I'm really glad that we're already talking about the issues here, because if you were to switch on the TV, it's like, all that was reported on were the riots, and it's basically it. And all the actual underlying issues as to why all this went down were basically ignored, and it's so convenient because the media obviously works hand in hand with the political establishment, and they're basically symbiotic creatures that need each other to survive, and that's the relationship that we've seen develop between the corporate media and the government. So your article on the anti-media, Rihanna just started working with us recently. I think this is your second or third article. But it's titled Untelevised Revolution, Inside Baltimore's Massive Police Accountability March. So I kind of wanted to get into this real quick as far as what the media has been portraying, like the corporate media, what we see on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and all that stuff, as opposed to what is actually happening in Baltimore and what is the message that the people there want to actually get out. We know that the rioting message is the one that's been perpetuated mostly. What is the actual message that they want to get out?
Well, it was reiterated over and over that unity was their number one priority, but coming together in a unified force of peace, they just want some justice, and they are passionate about that and passionate about conveying that. But they're so peaceful and loving about it. This whole entire incident and Freddie Gray's death and what has transpired since then is so much more than riots at night. And it always frustrated me. For the last 2 weeks, it's always frustrated me, because I know there are people, working their ass off voluntarily all around the clock, and this is not a joke. They're hardly getting any sleep. They're walking like 10 to 12 miles a day. I mean, these people are so passionate about this, and it's loving, it's peaceful, the energy, the vibe, it's hopeful, it's inspirational. A lot of the speakers, they're when they talk, they make you listen. They make you listen. And by that I mean there are some people who talk and, they kind of make you go to sleep. And then there are some people who know how to assert themselves, and really, really know how to put their thoughts out there and make people listen and understand, but encourage people too. And that's what they did. And there's one young man that I would like to bring up, because he is an absolute vocal point in this entire movement. His name is Kwame Rose, and he just recently, I don't know if it was...
Wait,
about a
is he
week
the
ago
same
or
guy
so.
that also confronted Geraldo Rivera?
Yes, yes.
That was
yes.
amazing what he did. We covered that on the outside media as well.
I mean, that one, Nick, that went viral quickly, and it was an amazing moment because, Fox News is, not so credible. Okay, so why they were even in the middle of things to begin with, I don't know, because anything that they report on, nobody should take seriously. That's neither here nor there. What was even more comical was that they decided to send Geraldo Rivera in the mix. And, it angered, I believe it was at nighttime, of course. Fox News shows up at night because that's when all the mischief happens, and that's what they want to capture. Screw all the peaceful, inspiring shit that's going on in the day. Let's run out there in the middle of the night and capture all the bad shit because that's the only thing that's important. And, it's ridiculous. And I think at sight of that, I mean, a lot of the video footage I've seen, it doesn't really show everything from the beginning. It's just you see Kwame sort of handing it to Geraldo. And, I don't really know what happened there, but at the end of the day, his message was exactly what I just explained. It's like, you're coming out here just to capture all the mischief that's going on. And he did tell Geraldo about the more peaceful things that were going on and some of their the amazing advocacy endeavors that they've just put out there for the last couple of years. I mean, they've all been working hard for a while, and he said, where were you guys when that was happening? Nowhere. Suddenly you guys pop out of nowhere in the middle of the goddamn night to capture some mischief. That city is more. I'm telling you right now, the reason why I went out there was to get a better perspective. Nick, I know we've talked about this before. I'm one of those don't watch TV type of people, and I'm going on 2 years now. So I get all of my information from all our alternative media outlets and stuff like that. So, the stuff that I was seeing, I had an opinion on things, but I wanted to get a better perspective by being there. And wow, what a difference that was. Because I mean, the mainstream media is a joke. What they're making of this is horrible. It's horrible because these people are working way too hard. And just quickly go back to Kwame because I don't want to go off on a tangent there. But he spoke several times at the rally, and he's one of those when he speaks, he makes you listen. But also when the march started up, he led the whole way. He had that bullhorn in his hand, and he just walked and walked and walked and inspired and encouraged. And we did a 5-mile walk from City Hall to North and Penn, where the CVS is. And I mean, we did stops at traffic lights. He would just stop to encourage everybody for a second. Just stop to say some amazing things, just to lift everybody up. That man is all about unity. That man is all about unity, and it goes just far beyond. I mean, he is so passionate about justice for Freddie, but he just wants to clean up that city. He wants to unify everybody there. It was so amazing. It was so amazing. And these are the sorts of things that mainstream media should be showing America. They should be showing them things like unity. As a human race, we need to see beautiful things like that.
Yeah.
But no, the mainstream media wants to run out in the middle of the night and capture the mischief. So,
Rihanna, has anyone followed up with, I mean, as painful it is to watch Fox News or any of the mainstream outlets, has anyone, perhaps you've maybe followed up and gotten maybe Geraldo's reaction to that? Because, I mean, he looked like a scared river toad when he was out there on the street. I mean, he hasn't looked that scared since he opened the crypt up and there was no bodies in it.
They were, I wish I would have, I would have copied it or remembered where I saw it. I saw it on my news feed on Facebook. I think I may be able to locate it. But Fox News was audacious enough to throw him out there again. And I don't know if it was this morning. I don't know when it was. Hey, it was probably around 3 o'clock when when that incident happened today. I know that still there's different reports and updates floating around about that, but
Yeah,
they
that's
threw him out there again. He's not well received out there. I don't know why they keep sending him out there. I mean, if Fox wants to show up, they got to send somebody else out there because he's not well received. I mean, Fox News in general is not, but
I think it's pretty obvious that they want someone to assault him so that they can be like, oh, look, our guy got hurt and stuff. Like, I mean,
that's a good thought. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. But they just got to stop doing that. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, at this point, at least those of us that are awake know exactly why they're out there. And Fox News is just the type of mainstream media outlet that's just going to portray this beautiful movement and just make it into something that it's not. It's just not what they're saying that it is. And a lot of the sheeple that I see about from day to day, when I go to talk to sheeple about this sort of thing, they kind of tend to just go off the information that they're seeing on the mainstream media. They don't know what they're sheeple. They don't know about the anti-media. They don't know about the other great alternative media outlets out there. They don't know about this sort of thing. So. And those are the sorts of alternative media outlets. They're giving you the real information. They're giving you the truth. But most people, they're turning on the major news stations and just hearing the bullshit and believing it. It's not okay anymore. It's not okay anymore.
Yeah, the cool thing now, I think, is that we have all this new technology and the ability to do citizen journalism and stuff like that. We all know how important that is. You were mentioning that in what you were just saying. But, the funny thing, it's kind of ironic, Morgan Freeman actually came out and was talking about how skewed the media coverage has been. And
yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and he talked about the technology and the need for independent journalism, investigative journalism. I thought that was pretty cool, and that was another thing that went kind of viral. He had like a little piece out of this really big interview that he did, but he actually showed that he understands, like, these people in Hollywood understand that the shit that they're feeding us in the corporate media for the most part is all total bullshit.
Well, I mean, Morgan Freeman, he can get away with that too. Even a lot of celebrities are scared to, I don't want to say scared, maybe a little bit apprehensive to come forward, and speak about things like that. But Morgan Freeman, he can get away with something like that. Moreover, he's a well-respected man. He really is. And hearing him say something like that is pretty profound. And it was, I saw that. I don't know where I saw that night, but I did, and I thought that was awesome. And I think it's great that some celebrities take the opportunity to use their notoriety and the platform that they're on to speak about pertinent issues. The more important things going on in the world aside from the celebrity life, which is a huge distraction to the world. So that's just...
Yeah, and these are, people are just kind of, still caught up in this. Most of Hollywood is caught up in the same kind of mentality that the cops are caught up in. It's this hierarchy of where it's just like, this is what you got to do. This is how it is. This is, this is how life is. So you got to portray this certain image. Even Kanye West wrote an article the other day, and it was kind of like, funny, because he was saying, like, he wrote an article that said, like, stop saying I'm part of the Illuminati or whatever. And like, yeah, I mean, I don't even think, like, we don't even really talk about the Illuminati here on the Anti-Media. But the thing is that he also admitted later on in the article, he's like, yeah, we do have to censor our content and, like, make sure that it passes through our producers and all that stuff, and our editors and all that stuff. And so, like, he basically admitted in that article, even though it was kind of like it was an article to be kind of thought of in a funny way, I think, but he still admitted, like, yeah, we have to censor our content because we can't really put out the stuff that we may want to put out. We have to put out this mindless brainwash for all the Americans to consume, man. And we all, like, I think a lot of people will admit, or at least acknowledge, that mainstream music, modern mainstream music, has basically become a pile of shit, right? And everyone knows that, right? So people understand that Kanye's music kind of sucks and all that stuff, whatever. But these Hollywood types that are starting to break the mold now, I think it's pretty important. We've seen it in the past. We've seen big name musicians that are kind of anti-establishment and stuff, and of course, Rage Against the Machine comes off the top of the head. But I think this is a good sign, and it shows that a lot of this protesting, the awareness, and the citizen journalism is having a good effect. And I have the quote here from Morgan Freeman. And this is from an interview he did with the Daily Beast. So here's the quote. "The other thing is that technology lets us see behind the scenes a little better. Police have a standard reaction to shooting somebody. I fear for my life and I fear for my safety. Now at least you can see, hey, his hands were up in the air. What part of your safety were you afraid of? The guy was running away. What part of your safety was in danger? There was one situation I saw where a cop told a guy to get out of the car, said, 'Show me your driver's license,' and the guy reached back into the car and the cop shot him." And I remember that incident. That was at the gas station where the guy got pulled over, and the cop's like, "Let me see your license." He reaches in his car to grab his wallet, and the cop just opens fire on the guy for no reason. The dash cam footage came out, and it was like totally blatantly showed what happened, and it was horrible. But I think that's, it's great that these big name people are talking about this stuff. Of course, we don't want to put too much weight as far as, like, propping someone up as a hero or anything, of course. But we have to appreciate whenever there is a celebrity that does want to talk about real issues, And Russell Brand comes to mind as well. And I know Russell Brand is a pretty polarizing figure, but at the same time, I mean, some of the stuff that he says is a great message that I'm happy that it's getting out. You know what I mean? We have another caller on the line now from 830. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. Do you want to ask Rihanna any questions? You want to talk about Baltimore? What's going on?
We'll talk about Baltimore, man, with Cassius.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just doing great. So, yeah, man, I like to see all this unity coming out of, the Baltimore shit. And I think that the people from Baltimore were talking about marching to get their brothers out of central booking after the officers, got charged for all that. So I like to see, they're not trying to stop after they get justice with Freddie Gray or any of that stuff, man. It looks like it's going to be a permanent structure formed out of this tragedy,
Yeah, man, we can only hope, because the police state is massive, right? And it's ever encroaching. The local, even small town departments have become militarized with, weapons grade rifles and, armored cars and even tanks. Here in San Diego, our school district ended up with the equivalent of an MRAP. I mean, it's insane. They painted it up to be some kind of rescue vehicle and stuff, but it's like, no, they're seriously giving MRAPs to the school district here in San Diego. Luckily, there was so much outcry that they sent it back. But at the same time, these people don't have a problem with the fact that our sheriff's department here in San Diego has 6,000 employees and is massively armored up to the tooth. I mean, we're talking about one of the most militarized areas in the country. And that's why, like, I can kind of, even not being in Baltimore, I can kind of see that feeling, that militarized feeling, because when we had our protest down here, like, not only are we talking about San Diego, which is a massive military center. How many bases do we have here in San Diego? We've got like 15 military bases here.
Wow.
So, I mean, not only that, but then seeing these guys out in their riot gear, and then all the helicopters overhead and all that stuff. I mean, I can kind of understand the feeling that people are getting under this martial law scenario going on, over there in Baltimore and previously in Ferguson. But one interesting thing that's been, talked about a lot on social media and independent media is how the Bloods and the Crips kind of came together. And I know Cassius was talking to me about that earlier. Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit? What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, I'll elaborate on that. So this dude, Orlando Gilliard, he played a fundamental role, apparently, in uniting them. And I see this dude being really active in it. And, just getting active as hell, man. There's so much motivation there. It's beautiful, So it looks to me like... Go on.
I'm sorry. You know what? I just wanted to go back to a point, Cassius, that you brought up earlier that was, really, really, really important.
Right.
And you had mentioned that this whole thing is a lot bigger than Freddie Gray. I mean, it is. And, I mean, they're fighting for a lot more than that. But they also know and they understand that, yes, all 6 officers were charged, but this is only the beginning. There's many steps. There's many steps left, in the process, and they want them prosecuted. They want them convicted, and they want them punished harshly for their involvement in this. And this is going to take some time, before that end result comes. We all know how the court system works, and we don't know how this is going to play out. But, they definitely know it's an uphill battle. But I just wanted to go back to your point that you are absolutely correct, and that they are fighting for more than just Freddie Gray. I mean, there's a lot of lost lives. There's a police brutality epidemic going on in this country right now that's appalling. It really, really is. And they mentioned all sorts of victims that have passed in the last couple of years. And, it's sad because we want to see the right thing happen. And I think that Marilyn Mosby, it's very obvious why she's looked at as a hero to these people, because she stood alone in this. And that was something that Kwame spoke on at the rally, is that, she stood alone in her decision, and that she was swayed to, not take the route that she did. But I think what really helped, and I've seen several interviews that she's done now, and I think what really helped was that she spent time with Freddie's family. And, once you do something like that, it's not a job anymore. This isn't a job. You're not the Baltimore City prosecutor anymore. You're a flesh and bone woman. You're a human being with morals, and that kicks in. And I think at the end of the day, that helped her to make her decision. So.
And on this case, it seems like on the Freddie Gray case, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any of this grand jury nonsense. These guys are like already charged, so they're going to have to face trial, right?
Can you imagine if they go to trial and they get acquitted, each and every one of them? See,
I don't think that'll happen. That's the thing. Is like
martial law.
These guys, maybe a few of them may get off with something like really like a slap on the wrist, but there's going to have to be at least 1 or 2 guys that are going to have to like really get some time, because it's not, like I said, it's not going to the grand jury like where they just decide, oh, are we going to charge or are we not going to charge? These guys are already charged with crime. Some of these guys are charged with murder, and so some of these charges are going to stick.
Right, but prosecutors have to produce. Right now, we just have this vacuum where we see them, and then we don't, and then the next time we see him, his spine is broken. Logic would prevail that the police did it, but logic does not prevail in these cases. So they're going to have to produce some kind of tangible evidence that they already were claiming that he did it to himself, which is, I mean, come on. I mean, we're living in the Matrix when people are claiming that the guy broke his own spine. Are you kidding me?
God, that is ridiculous. I know, right? I heard that. I was listening to the news in the morning, and I heard that, and I was like, oh, my God, are you kidding me? God.
It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous, but they're known to do something called rough rides. Once they throw these guys in the back of the van, they're known to do something called rough rides, and that's basically where I don't know how confined the back of the van is. I don't know what it looks like. Conveniently, there's no cameras, but apparently they don't strap the guys in there, and they literally just drive the van erratically. Like,
I don't think that you can break anyone's spine with that.
Well,
I don't think that can break.
I don't think so either. You know what? I don't think so either,
Yeah.
but I think it's awfully convenient that there's no cameras in those vans. Awfully convenient, because that would really help the situation.
Yeah,
Because
to me it really
we've all seen the
seems...
video footage of him being dragged. We've all seen the video footage of when his leg appears to be broken and he's being dragged to the van. I mean, we've all seen that. So to see him go from that point, getting loaded into the van, to 5 blocks later, he's, got these severe injuries and his spine is severed. How does that happen? That's lunacy. Even the theory of the rough ride is a bit lunacy. It's not to be believed. Clearly, somebody did something to him. Somebody did something or used something to cause that amount of force.
Well,
And
these rough rides, these they also call them nickel rides, cowboy rides, but it's actually like a somewhat of a torture tactic. And what they do is think about it. If his leg was already broken and they throw him in there, so he can't even use his leg to catch him from falling. He's in this van and they're going over who knows what, jumping over curbs. I don't know how they do these rough rides. I know there's been whistleblowers that have talked about these rough rides, and they happen all the time. One of them happened to my buddy here in San Diego. I can't get into detail, but because he's too afraid to come forward about it. But it's happened to my buddy here. This could be a case where he was in there with a broken leg, couldn't support himself. They give him a rough ride, and he, hits the wall, snaps his neck.
What are they just
And therefore these guys are anyone involved in it, they're directly responsible for his death.
I think what, Nick? I think the bigger problem here is that these police officers are taking it into their own hands to punish these people. That's not what their job is. If the guy did something wrong, you detain him, you put him in the back of the van properly, and you take him where he needs to go. You don't take it upon yourself to punish this person. And you know what? I want to bring another incident that happened that's just as cruel and unusual. I think it happened in Arizona. Forgive me, because I could be completely off on this, but I think it was in Arizona. There was a man who was wandering in the street, and he had shot a gun up in the air. He was armed, he shot a gun up in the air. He didn't seem to be looking for anybody in particular. He hadn't harmed anyone. The police kind of had him surrounded, and some of the video footage that I've seen, you can hear dispatch, and someone who was in charge, I suppose maybe a sergeant or something, you can hear him saying, everybody just, stay where you are, and you can see from the dash cam, the guy walking, and he's got a gun. And one of the patrol cars from behind where the sergeant was came speeding along at what had to be 90 to 100 miles per hour and hit this guy. And he went flying up in the air like a goddamn ragdoll. And that's another scenario where a cop is taking it into his own hands to punish this person. There could have been a million things that they could have done to restrain this man or detain him. I mean, they've got their beloved tasers. We all know how much they love their tasers. There were a lot of different tactics. The Lord only knows what they would. We don't know what was going to happen. I mean, the sergeant, at that point, they just had all the cars around the guy, and a patrol car there was an officer in it and who decided, I guess he wanted to be a hero, but that's not being a hero. Who knows if this guy, and I don't know if this guy had any mental issues or anything like that, but we don't know what was wrong with this guy, and he hadn't harmed anyone.
Yeah, and he was only a threat to himself. I saw the video, and he was like putting the gun up to his own head and stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, the cop literally just ran him over, and like you were saying, it's a fundamental issue here because what we're talking about is cops that have a mentality that, hey, I'm the judge, jury, and sometimes the executioner, where I could just beat the hell out of people because I felt like they did something wrong. That's why there's something supposedly in the United States called due process. You know what I mean? You're supposed to get, justice is supposed to actually be served in front of a jury of your peers, supposedly. But what these cops are doing, like the guy in Arizona that Rihanna's talking about, that literally just ran this guy over, even though the cop that was at the very front that was pursuing the guy told everybody to back off because the guy was, at risk of shooting himself in the head and he was trying to calm the situation down. The cop in the front was actually doing the right thing. This other guy just comes swerving from behind and just runs this guy over. And he knew damn well what he was doing. Like, he purposely ran that guy over. But I mean, this is a mentality that is completely against what the U.S. is supposed to stand for, man. The Bill of Rights, the Constitution, all that stuff, the stuff the country's built on, the stuff that these cops are supposedly protecting, that the troops are supposedly protecting. Is like, what in the hell? It's like they're just throwing it out the window. It's like they're throwing the baby out with bathwater on this one.
Judge, jury, and executioner. I mean, that's the premise behind the science fiction franchise Judge Dredd. And that's what we've devolved further into, is more of a dystopia where the police, and of course, depicted as heroes in Judge Dredd, but we've got the real life version of it, and there's nothing heroic about it.
Yeah, man.
We gotta focus on the fact that people like Al Sharpton are trying to get more government into this to solve this problem. Man, we gotta confront that head on because they're not gonna stop the fact.
Yeah, that's a good point, man, and that's a good thought because the thing is that the reason why the policing is such a horrible issue is because it's so bureaucratic, right? And it's centralized control over the policing. And so there's some people like Al Sharpton that are saying, hey, let's just federalize the police. And you federalize the police and it creates even more of a bureaucracy and even more of a centralized authority. And it's the same kind of mentality that's been perpetuating out of the economic system, the education system, the healthcare system. I mean, do we really want to make the policing even worse?
Do we want
I mean, at least right now, the sheriff supposedly, the sheriff is basically elected, right? For most places. So in theory, there's at least some kind of accountability to the sheriff. But when we talk about local police, municipal police, things like that, there's really no accountability. It's just a bureaucratic administration, that's all it is. It's not really accountable to anybody or anything.
Take your guns.
They enforce federal laws and they take stuff from the Pentagon, 1033, It's pretty federal already, but, that's obviously the problem. He says he wants to combat states' rights. Yeah, man, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, their answer to the problem is like over centralization. Their answer to that problem is even centralizing it even worse. And it just goes to show the logic that is being carried out right now by what they're trying to create as the mainstream narrative. But I think it's failing, and thankfully, there's people out there with the technology and the ability to go and report on this stuff and actually show what's really going on. Thank God for live streaming and all of those kind of advances in technology that really enable everybody to like get the information raw and uncut and find out that all this shit on Fox News is bullshit. And that's really important to the future of trying to create a better world for the people that are coming, after us, because, we're a lot of us are already at a point where it's like, we may not reap the benefits of what's going on right now or what we're trying to do right now in our lifetime, but the next people will.
Well, to that point, there's an ACLU, the ACLU release a smartphone app that will record any encounter with the police, and it doesn't matter if the police grab the phone and destroy it. The video is going to be uploaded to the cloud and it will be stored there. And so basically, whether the phone is in your pocket or not, I don't know the full logistics of it, but essentially, this sounds like a pretty you know, we get scared of ubiquitous surveillance, but in some cases, surveillance can actually be surveillance by the people. A little brother aspect of it can be a good thing. That's a good tool. Good hope for the future there.
Yeah, man. There's also that Peacekeeper app as well. And you know, we definitely have to utilize technology on a personal basis to start combating these awful bureaucratic ideas. You know, and open source technology and the internet is really the key to unlocking all of this oppression, man. And like people, you know, we've been under a system of oppression for the last, you know, several thousand years. You know, ever since government was really created and states were created and borders were drawn and empires were born, we've been under a system that's been more or less the same. It's been an oligarchy, like from day one. No matter whether you call it democracy, republicanism, communism, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's always oligarchy, you know.
You know, Nick, I think, the solution here, or the obvious solution to this whole police brutality epidemic and all the corrupt shit that goes on within the law enforcement systems all over the country, the solution there is to add new structure. You know, I mean, they have to add new structure. I think the way it's structuralized right now is not helpful at all. I mean, they've all got to get back to the drawing board there and figure something out and figure it out quickly. Because I'll tell you right now, this whole scene down in Baltimore is creating noise, and it's outside of people in the movement, people that are awake. I'm telling you that sheeple are now paying attention to this, and sheeple are now waking up. So, you know, big things are happening. Things are only going to get worse, and what they need to do is add new structure to the law enforcement system in general. Because
what we need to do.
What was that?
What we need to do, I think that, you know, the structure that you're talking about is founded upon us, and that the only thing that's really going to cause change is for us to stand up and unify in our own structures to actually use all of our brain power and use all of our potential with the technology we now have to do everything to shape our future, and each one of us individually stand up to create the structure you're talking about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah. And people are, and like I said, I mean, everybody is, those of us that are awake and those in the movement in general, I mean, are making a lot of noise now more than ever. And it's not just people in the movement, it's reaching outside of that. Like I said, I mean, sheeple who've been fast asleep for a while are waking up now because of this, and that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's spreading so far that even the police departments are having trouble like recruiting new cops too, because they're just under so much pressure from what's going on, and the social media and the unlocking potentials of the technology that has brought, you know, this whole issue of police violence. And it's not a new issue. I mean, think about the Rodney King situation, what happened there. That was one of the first instances of citizen journalism, you know, videotaping a police beating. And, you know, we see what that did, but now we get these videos like every day almost. And it's really built up a kind of pressure now where, you know, it's having the effects that are kind of we're going after, right? So we have like protests all over the country. Cassius was out there on the out in Sacramento at the protests.
How was that?
Great. There are like 150 people there. There are all kinds of people honking as, you know, they rode past. Any
Wow.
you know, people from sheeple type people to gangsters to all kinds of people honking, you know, as they rode
That's
past.
encouraging.
And
It is.
absolutely encouraging.
Yeah, and we had
so many diverse people.
There were protests all up and down the West Coast. I think we're joined now on the line by Manny Aguilar. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, Nick? How you doing? How you doing, Jay? How you doing, Vanilla sister? Yeah, when she interrupted you, I thought maybe she was one of Alberto's relatives or something. Hey, just wanted to say, basically, that we need to unite harder, because when stuff was happening in the West Coast, and not to throw wrench in, Baltimore did not support us as activists in the West Coast. So don't wait till something happens in your city before you react or act. You know what I mean? That's basically what I'm saying. You know, that's my problem with other activists around. Oh, it's a West Coast. When I was asking for help in the West Coast, including Baltimore and Washington, we're saying, oh, that's your problem in the West Coast. It's not happening over here. Well, now it's happening over there. Now, what should we do? Not worry about what's happening in the East Coast, you know? So we need to kind of, focus on stuff like that. Another thing, because that's real unity, okay? Not this Mickey Mouse stuff. And another thing too is that we need to start having independent, basically watchdogs to monitor the police. That you can sue the police, or that we're gonna have to have laws in Washington saying, dude, we can sue the cops if they take us, like for instance, pass laws so that we can film them, and not, and they can be liable, So we have to start doing that. We have to start going after the system itself, because the cops is just the first. It's like the secretary. It's like talking to the secretary. You got to get past the secretary, and that's exactly what I'm pushing hard to do and stuff like that,
Yeah, man,
That's
exactly.
what I'm talking about, man.
It's all about accountability, and that's one of the things that we're always facing with what's going on, is the lack of accountability from not only the cops, from the Congress, from the executive branch, from to our own city councils that are supposedly representative of our communities and stuff. I mean, even those people don't want to listen, man. And so the thing that we're lacking in a huge way is the accountability, and that's actually what my essay was about. I did an essay for an event that was on Saturday night. It was an art show here for the 43 students that disappeared in Mexico, and that's one of the things I brought up, is that the situation with these disappeared students, a lot of it is the lack of accountability, and it relates back to us here, because we're not getting the accountability that we're looking for, and there's so many times, like, doesn't have to be one thing. I mean, just how many different times, like for instance, even with Nestle taking all the water out of the ground, out of the drought-ridden California, where's the accountability? There's nothing being done about it. You know what I mean? Really. So, that's the thing that I think that is one of the most important aspects of anything that we do. I mean, everybody has a different angle of attack to try to create change or try to improve things. But one thing that's pretty, a general rule is that we're all seeking accountability for what's being done, whether at a corporate level, government level, military, cops, everything is accountability, man. And that's what we got to all fight for. That's one of the few things that we could all really unite on. Yeah, we may disagree on a lot of stuff, but at least we want to hold anything that's out there. We want it to be held accountable for what it does, right? So yeah, man, we could unite around that. DB, did you have any closing thoughts? We're getting to the end here.
Nah, man, I'm just in a chance listening to all these different voices. It's always good to get all these calls.
Well, just one thing, going after the big monster, Monsanto. So look out for Manny and going after Monsanto, because I'm going to hit him hard this month.
Yeah, we have those Arctic apples up here, and they look like you can throw them through a wall, man. They're pretty rough.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that is a big event coming up. March Against Monsanto, May 23rd, coming up this month.
Losing profits. We gotta keep them losing profits.
Yeah, and Monsanto, it's much bigger than the GMO topic, which is the most controversial aspect of the whole thing. And I come from a biotech background, and I'm not completely against GMOs in theory, but a lot of the practices that are being done, like making the crops resistant to poisonous herbicide like glyphosate, Roundup. These are horrible GMOs. There's some that can be used in the right way, but these are being used in the wrong way. The previous poisonings of Monsanto goes back 50 years. I mean, they helped create Agent Orange that was used in Vietnam that caused so much damage to not only the Vietnamese but to U.S. troops as well. Now for that, thanks for tuning in. Anti-Media Radio, 5 days a week, same time, same place.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.